Well, good afternoon, and so I'll call this the April 8th meeting of the Tecumseh Police Service Board to order. Under item B of our agenda, I note the roll call. Everyone is here, including support from Ellen Preushat and Sean Firth doing the IT work. So I'll go on to item C, disclosure of pecuniary interest. And I want to know at this time, is there any pecuniary interest declared by any member of the board with regard to the agenda tonight? Seeing none, we'll move on. The agenda for tonight's meeting, I'm looking at the agenda for the Police Services Board meeting dated Thursday, April the 8th, 2021, as duplicated and delivered to the members thereof be accepted. I'm looking for a mover. Mark Gomes, and a seconder, Paul. All in favor? Thank you. We have approval of our previous minutes under item E. That the regular minutes of the February 11th, 2021 Police Service Board meeting as duplicated and delivered to the members thereof be adopted. So I'm looking for a mover on that. Mayor McNamara, a seconder, Deputy Mayor Joe Pichetti. All in favor? Thank you so much. We'll move on. Item F, delegations. So it gives me great pleasure to introduce to everyone here David Tilley, our Police Services Advisor for Zone 6, a new Police Service Advisor to us. And he's graciously agreed to come in and be part of our meeting. For David, no obligation to stay the entire hour and a half or hour, but certainly it's good to see you. And we'd love to hear a little report of maybe highlighting your career and then what your objectives are for us in Zone 6. I'll let you take care.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and good afternoon to members and members of the OPP who are on this call. I appreciate the opportunity to come and speak at your meeting. Obviously, my name is Dave Tilley and I am a Police Service Advisor with the Ministry of the Solicitor General. And although it seems that I may be new to Zone 6, I was actually assigned to Zone 6 in January of 2020. Prior to that assignment, I was assigned to Zone 2 for the province, which is mainly Eastern Ontario, and I've actually been in the role as a policing advisor since 2015. Unfortunately, the issues which relate to COVID really have limited my ability to physically attend and travel to some of these meetings, so I haven't had the opportunity to meet you all in person. I can let you know that I have been observing some meetings and issues via kind of your live streams and stuff like that, so I do have some kind of kept up with awareness of what's going on in my various communities. It's just, like I said, I haven't been able to physically get out there. I do hope that once we do return to a level of normalcy, whatever normal looks like in the future, I will hopefully attend a number of meetings face to face so that I can obviously get to know you better and we can have a little bit more interaction. But I'm certainly open to attending your meetings on a more regular basis if you find that helpful. And based on the last Zone 6 OAPSB meeting, which I attended, I hope to also participate in those a little more so I can provide updates on what's going on at the moment. So with that, I'll move into a kind of quick general update into what's going on in terms of the Community Safety and Policing Act. So starting from the beginning, obviously it received royal assent in March of 2019 as part of the Comprehensive Police Services Act. However, the date in which it comes into force has not yet been determined. The ministry is currently working towards an enforced timeline of sometime in early 2022, but obviously there's a lot of work that still needs to be done. So until the CSPA does come into force, and it will replace the current Police Services Act from 1990, but until then, the Police Services Act obviously remains in force. There are 50+ matters for regulation that will need to be developed in order to bring the CSPA into force. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that there will be 50+ regulations. It's just that there are a number of areas within the CSPA that do require some detail to be fleshed out in a regulation before that act can actually be put into place. Obviously, you're aware of some of those areas around kind of OPP governance and things like that. The ministry is in the process of hosting regular engagement tables with policing, community groups, First Nation partners to develop those regulations. Now, obviously, COVID did put a little bit of a delay into that process, and engagement tables were temporarily put on hold during the middle part of last year, but they have resumed virtually since October of 2020. And today, and even this week, there are several virtual meetings that are going on. The engagement tables are at differing levels. So there is the policing sector table, which includes frontline associations, the chiefs of police, the OAPSB, OPP, AMO, City of Toronto, and people like that. Very similar to the Future Policing Advisory Committee type thing that went on a few years back. There is also a community and social services sector table at that kind of level as well as an engagement with First Nations police services and police services boards. Below that, there are also some more technical, dare I say, regulation-specific issues, and we call them subject matter expert tables, where they really delve into the weeds in some of those areas that need to be kind of fleshed out within the regulations. So, for example, last week I attended one that was related to firearms equipment. So it really delves down to some of those areas that need that kind of detail. Obviously, the ministry also engages with AMO and the City of Toronto through the memorandum of understanding process through those. So there's a lot of balls up in the air at the moment in regard to engagement that are helping kind of flesh out these areas. Now, as these regulations are being kind of discussed and developed and drafted, they will be added to the Ontario Regulatory Register for comment. Now, this isn't going to be one kind of data dump of regulations at some point in the future. The ministry looks to be taking a kind of staged approach to this. So over the next probably 9 to 10 months, you're going to see a number of different regulations posted at different times on that registry for comment. And that process is probably likely to start within the next month or so. So as they kind of they will be highlighted to you so that you can go online and look at those regulations and provide any comment. Some of the key areas that are going to see changes under the CSPA, obviously, it is the provision of policing, so updated adequacy and effectiveness kind of standards and policing functions. OPP governance, so as you're aware, the creation of the OPP Advisory Council at the provincial level, and then the establishment of OPP detachment boards, a potentially opt-in process for First Nations police services to come under the provincial legislation. Under the accountability piece, there's the creation of the Inspector General of Policing, where INAP will sit and currently do sit at the moment, and I'll talk to that in a minute. Some changes to some of the oversight agencies, so the Law Enforcement Complaints Agency will come into force, and they really will deal with a lot of any kind of public complaints and things like that. And then the Ontario Police Arbitration and Adjudication Commission, who will deal with a lot of those kind of arbitration issues that may come up through collective bargaining and things like that. There are going to be more training requirements on boards under the CSPA, particularly, which will also come to members of OPP detachment boards. Areas that are likely to be required are around roles and responsibilities, human rights and systematic racism, the diverse and multiracial, multicultural character of Ontario society, the rights and cultures of Indigenous people, and then the kind of catch-all any other training that is prescribed by the Solicitor General. Again, a lot of this stuff is still up for discussion. How it's going to be delivered is all TBD and will get flashed out over the next kind of 9 months. So as I've kind of alluded to and previously stated, there is a significant amount of work ongoing to develop and draft these regulations, but they will, like I said, I really want to emphasize that there is a staged approach, so you will kind of start seeing these things in fairly short order so that you can provide comment on them. Now, if I can go back to kind of my role, obviously, as the Police Service Advisor to Zone 6, I have a number of roles under the current Police Services Act in terms of monitoring, advisory, and even conducting inspections. That continues to this day, although we have kind of been moved as a unit into the Inspectorate of Policing. The Inspectorate of Policing doesn't really have any legal authority until the CSPA is in force. So our role at the moment currently is status quo under the current Police Services Act. There may be some changes as we move forward into the kind of new world under the CSPA, but I can only think that our kind of advisory services and the attending board meetings and things like that is only going to be enhanced, as like I said, as we're all going to have to kind of learn together under what the world's going to look like under the new legislation and those roles and responsibilities that boards have. So that's my really quick run through, and I'm happy to kind of open it up to any sort of kind of questions for myself or moving forward.
Well, that's excellent. And I'm going to open it up for our members. If there are any questions with regard to our new Zone 6 advisor, please indicate. Oh, you're thorough. Very good. Your worship.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And first of all, thank you, David, for participating at our meeting. And I know with COVID, it's not easy to try to connect with all of the district itself. But I want to say thank you in particular, where I think there's items I think for us that was kind of we were more or less guessing in terms of what the real requirements of the SolGen in terms of getting ourselves ready for, especially that in June. And you've kind of laid out a perspective that it's kind of bits and pieces that'll be laid out for comments over the next 9 or 10 months. And I think that's that's one piece of certainly information that we didn't have, and it was something that for myself I felt that was a critical piece in terms of I like to have something to build on in terms, and I mean we've done our piece as a police services board in Tecumseh. We developed with in partnership with our other four, and we call it our white paper, the foresight paper, and then as well as my certainly my comments that I made at Roma, and a lot of those comments were based on the unknown and the challenges that we are faced with in terms of trying to figure out the right channel for us to merge our boards and how we work within an integrated model within Essex and so forth. And at least now there's an expectation, obviously, that there'll be information forthcoming, which is great. And for us, we've got some work to do, in particular in challenges with our neighbors and how we are going to prepare some sort of a response in June. A lot of it, our chair did send all of those reports to the Solicitor General, and in particular, we don't know in terms of that would be some of the items that will be put into discussion with certainly other areas, but maybe in your travels with your peers and certainly with the ministry in that is that a kind of a response to, I think, our white paper, more or less seeing if we are going in ourselves are putting in play the right directional pieces for us to move forward. And obviously there's a lot of effort, a lot of work. There's been dollars expended in the report itself. And so the challenge for us is that, to take it to the next level, are we on the right track? So, I think information like that to be taken back to the ministry would be certainly a good start for us. And because there's no doubt the meter's running, even if say 9 or 10 months, it's not a long time. And so forth. But at least it gives us a window that's beyond the next 2 months, which I think is it makes me feel a little bit more comfortable in terms of trying to find the right solution for us.
Thank you, Your Worship. Are there any other questions? Seeing none. David, thank you very much for coming here electronically to visit with us. We really appreciate it. We want you to know that you're welcome to any one of our Police Service Board meetings. We welcome the interest of the Solicitor General, so that's an excellent thing. What Gary too was talking about, of course, is the fact that our board is pretty proactive with regard to what's going on under the proposed new act. So we don't want to push too far down the road if we are actually pushing in the wrong direction, because we don't have any input from the ministry that they really are expecting something different. Just to let you know, and I think what Gary is saying, just to bear it out again, is it'll be very good if you hear something from the ministry that will help us to understand if we are indeed going down the right road. We would be very appreciative of that.
Yeah. I mean, I know that I don't want to steal the thunder, I know, because you've got it on your agenda to discuss later, but there are certainly some avenues that I think you could explore in terms of having some discussion with the appropriate folks at the ministry to look at kind of the proposals that you already have in place. So, I mean, I can park that until we get to that on the agenda.
Yeah, we appreciate that very much. So having said that, and seeing no other hands come up for questions, I'd like to have a motion that the data report provided by David Tilley, Zone 6 Police Service Advisor, Inspector of Policing, Ministry of the Solicitor General, be received. I'm looking for someone to move that. Paul, seconded by Mark. All in favor? Thank you. And David, thank you very much. If you want to stick around, that's fine. We're going to have our OPP monthly report next, but it's totally up to you. We're very grateful for the time you spent with us so far. So item G, the monthly report. Glenn, I don't know who is presenting. Are you?
I'll have, Staff Sergeant Smith will present, and maybe when Jamie is completed, I know he's probably going to touch on a lot of the things that I would be speaking on as well, but maybe I'll just have a final comment when Jamie's finished his review.
Always appreciated. And once again, Jamie, if I could ask you that when you are alluding to a certain specific graph, you can see the page number. If you would call it out, and Sean will roll it up on the screen for us. Okay.
Okay, perfect, everyone. David, thank you for that overview. Nice meeting you over Zoom. Hopefully we can meet in person one day. Mr. Chair, Your Worship, I'll provide the monthly overview. I think you're all aware, COVID is keeping us busy once again with the new stay-at-home orders and transitioning to the different rules. I know we meet on a weekly basis with MARG, and we've got our partial EOC. So we're trying to work through that. So I'll go over the page. If you want to go to, I think it'll be page 4, Sean. Appreciate you doing this. Perfect. Thanks, Sean. So our overview for this month, I'll just touch on a few highlights here. Property checks. We have 40 property checks, and basically what those are officers being proactive, going out into those areas where there might be the catalytic thefts going on, or it could be in relation to some of the parks where we're having issues with youth congregating, such as Lakewood Park, and also touching on the areas where businesses have been hit in the past with break-and-enters. So they'll focus in those areas and create occurrences. The traffic enforcement, those ones there are, again, proactive patrols by officers, whether it be in the school areas in the mornings with the buses dropping off the kids, or it could be just traffic enforcement throughout the county. Bylaw of interest. A lot of the complaints there with the 16 were dog complaints. Some were at the local parks with kids revving engines in the parks late at night. There's some parking issues and some garbage dumping issues. If you wouldn't mind going over to page 5, Sean. Calls for service. I think, again, I hate to relate everything back to COVID, but we're sitting at 444. We're up a little bit from last year this time. And the previous year before that, we were in the 500 range. And it seems to be consistent across the county and the other areas. Page 6. Violent crime for February, we've seen a decrease 17%. And looking into the 8 charges that relate in Tecumseh, they're mostly related to assaults, some issues at some of the nursing homes, and some sexual assaults involved. And those sometimes can be historical sexual assaults. They weren't stranger on a stranger. So those are investigated by our crime unit normally. Our officers will take the initial report and crime will follow them up a lot of times. Property crimes, again, we've seen a decrease there, which is also good. Most of them, when I looked into some of the calls for service in relation to them, majority were gas thefts. And sometimes those gas thefts are not intentional gas thefts. They can be a debit card issue. And someone just drives away and they'll grab a plate and they'll ask us to follow up with that person. A lot of them, as you're aware, across North America, the catalytic converter thefts. And I can share with you, since I'm on this topic right now, and I think we've got it in our overview or our highlight at the end. We did arrest 2 people last night in the Lakeshore area. They were arrested, they were charged. Can't remember if one was held for bail or whatnot. Sometimes we don't control whether the person's held. We have to go within the parameters of the law, depending on whether we hold them for bail. And a lot of times the judges will decide whether they're going to be held any further. Bill C-75 puts certain restrictions on us. So sometimes that's out of our hands. And I know sometimes the public is not aware of that in regards to when the police can and can't hold. At the end of the day, we can make the request, but the courts have the final decision on that. Page 7. Motor vehicle collisions, we see them going down, and that's pretty much across the board in the county. If you want to go over to page 8. The impaireds, we have seen a significant increase there. In Lakeshore there was 4, but in other municipalities, we have seen an increase. In Tecumseh, they've remained consistent across the board. We'd like to see zeros there. And we try to get out there and we engage the public to pick up the phone and call us whenever they suspect somebody of impaired driving, whether it be by alcohol or drugs. Driver license suspensions just below there, they remain at 1, and that would be consistent with the impaired that we had there. You want to go to page 9? Criminal charges, we're sitting at 20. They involve the Youth Criminal Justice Act and also the Criminal Code. We're seeing a bit of an uptick there. We can see in Leamington, they've went up a bit, and also in Kingsville. The drug offenses, we didn't have any last month in the town of Tecumseh. Then over to page 10. With our POA charges, we can see a bit of an increase there. And again, COVID kind of put a pause on that with the traffic that was going to and from work. And I think we're facing that once again. There's not as many vehicles out there on the roadway, but we are seeing an increase from last year. And consistent with that, just below in the traffic stop area, you'll see there was 79 traffic stops. So there was 88 provincial offenses. So some of those traffic stops may have resulted in multiple tickets being issued there. Mental health response calls, unfortunately, we're seeing a significant increase in them as well. And I think the stay-at-home orders and the challenges we're facing with COVID are causing a lot of these calls to rise. It could also be our MCERT and YCERT team engaging, doing proactive follow-ups that could also increase the calls for service with that. Those teams have been working since last year. They've been very effective and beneficial for our communities throughout Essex County. Next page, Sean, page 12. 911 hangups, see an increase across the board, and I don't know what's bringing them up. I see a 72% increase in that. And I see in Tecumseh, we've went up to 22 from 10 last year. We are still screening those calls, and the dispatcher will decide whether an officer is dispatched to those locations. So if there is an increase, there was a need for police in those areas. False alarms, there's been a slight decrease there. And then if you wouldn't mind going to page 13, Sean. Our ride programs, we're just at one for Tecumseh. Foot patrol hours, we're leading the county in that area. And oftentimes this is foot patrols throughout the parks, around the businesses in different areas. Bike patrols and ATV patrols, I think should see an increase in that with the nice weather coming. And I know that's one of the goals the PSB has with Tecumseh OPP, that we would like to increase those bike patrol hours and foot patrol hours. And our auxiliary hours, we're at 18. And I believe, and the inspector might comment on this, with what services are being affected with the new stay-at-home order. I think our auxiliary are sitting idle for the time being. And then page 14 in Tecumseh, once again, this was a break and enter at an eye care place. And this is one of the reasons why we've been doing the property checks and why that might be the top call for service. We had some individuals that broke into the eye care places locally in Tecumseh, and we were able to identify those persons responsible and ended up charging them. There was eyeglasses in excess of $10,000, and they caused over $2,000 worth of damages. And that's all I have, Mr. Chair, if there's any questions.
Okay, questions. So Paul, just before I do that, Paul, Glenn, if maybe what we should do is have you give a summary, because there may be questions arising out of your summary. Why don't we do that? And then we can throw it open for questions. Would that be, is that acceptable?
Yes, it is, Mr. Chair. Thanks very much. And yeah, as usual, Jamie certainly hit on all the salient points that need to be certainly addressed, and that would be certainly salient to the town of Tecumseh as well. So I'm glad that Jamie did speak about an early morning arrest dealing with some very active criminals that operate not only in our area, but in some of our neighboring jurisdictions, both to the east and to the west as well. In addition to making those arrests, and we're continuing to do the analysis, and we'll probably be linking them to a number of other crimes related to theft of catalytic converters. And sadly to say, of course, when they were arrested, they also had drugs in their possession as well. That seems to go hand in hand with some of these people. During the past Easter weekend, you know, Jamie spoke about the number of impaired drivers. One is totally unacceptable. People are continuing to drive impaired. We arrested 5 impaired drivers, I think 2 under the influence of drugs just over the Easter Day weekend. And I know the other morning, I think through your area, early in the morning, when everybody's kind of going to work or whatever, we arrested another individual as well for impaired driving. I was able to apprehend that particular person. We just recently ran a campaign also an Easter weekend, as we do, and this is kind of provincially. Essex County OPP led the way in the number of charges throughout all of West Region. This was specific to seatbelts, but it also encompasses a number of other charges as well. And we're still disappointed to see, and I don't know how this is, that people aren't wearing their seatbelts, because I would think it would be annoying not to wear your seatbelt, because that bell would be going off all the time. But we know that one of the leading causes of serious injury and death are often a result of someone not wearing their seatbelt. So certainly for those individuals listening, there is a reason why we conduct enforcement in those areas. It is important. Just like you would ensure that your children and your moms and dads and friends would have their seatbelts on, it's important that you set a good example and have your seatbelts on as well. Just dealing with COVID, as Jamie said, it's been extremely busy, not just for us, but for the towns as well. And again, I reach back to the town of Tecumseh with our sincere appreciation for their support. And we enjoy the collaborative partnership that we have with the local town directors and through the CAO, and doing our very best to help to keep our community safe. And that's clearly what it's all about, why we're doing this initiative. In relation to education and certainly, if required, certainly enforcement as well. Many of you know that I sit on a board of directors for the Windsor-Essex Child Youth Advocacy Center. We had a meeting early this morning, my first Zoom meeting of the day, and I can tell you that particular group continues to assist our young people within all communities, and certainly within your community as well. From January of this year until March 31st, we served over 166 clients, and those would include certainly your young people, caregivers, and various witnesses to some rather serious offenses that have taken place. Since October of 2018, when the Child Youth Advocacy Center was stood up, and again, it was through the vision and the design of an OPP member, and there's only a few of these really in Ontario. We have advanced in excess of 500 charges, and we've helped to serve over 933 clients. And again, when I talk about clients, I'm talking mostly about some extremely young people. So as a victim-focused organization, we will continue to support those people and be for them, not just now, but in their future as well, as they continue to deal with the travesties of the various types of abuse that they have been subjected to. So that's just kind of a quick strategic overview, and certainly I know Jamie and myself would be welcome to answer any of the questions that the board members would have.
Well, thank you, Glenn. That's a good roundup. And Paul, I saw you had your hand up. Please.
Yes, just a question to the staff sergeant through the you, Mr. Chair. Jamie, I noticed on those the significant occurrences that you reported on, that video played a pretty important role in a number of them, I guess. Is that type of video, was that like home video, or was it security of a commercial premise?
Are you speaking to some of the break-in enters, Paul?
Yeah, it's obviously playing a huge role. I mean, am I correct in assuming that now? Yeah, well, we count on the public, number one, to, report crime to us if they see something, but 100% the video is essential. It identifies vehicles, it identifies what they were wearing at the time. If we get foot impressions at the scene or some sort of fingerprints, and then, we have a potential suspect and we look into them and we stop that suspect at some given time, and we can match the footwear or the clothing that they were wearing that night. But yeah, a lot of them are the video. So I encourage people, I have video at my own home. I encourage people to purchase that. It helps us with the investigations. It helps your neighbors. It helps your business partners. So yeah, it's a great point, Paul, that the video is significant in solving a lot of these crimes. Thank you.
And yes, Your Worship.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and through to the Staff Sergeant. We had the video issues. I got video now, and most of my neighbors, the same thing. There was a conversation that we had a while back too about, kind of a registry or something, in terms of to aid now. Obviously, you can see that it is a great tool for police and to be able to do that. And I don't know if there's any follow-up that we could do, or any type of messaging that in partnership with the OPP and having kind of a registry so that if there was a crime at ABC Street, number whatever, you would know offhand where folks have video cameras and so forth. I know that some will, you know, sort of come forward now, but I really, you know, I've given this a lot of thought as well. I think it's a great tool, and and now, in particular with the technology out there, the resolutions on some of these are incredible, even in the middle of the night, how they can, you know, show up. So if you can get a plate number or the type of vehicle and so forth, it'd be a great access. So I'm just kind of throwing it out there that is there something that we could do, you know, to work with our residents and in partnership with our OPP and saying, look, you can have an opportunity to put your cameras to good use as well in case of a crime committed in your neighborhood or your neighbors.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. And I remember bringing that forward to the board. And I know we lost traction there for a while. And I know at one point we were going to have somebody, one of our officers, push forward with it, but they ended up in a different role. And it's something that I think would be great to circle back with and start getting that moving forward once again. I think it's a great tool. I know other policing agencies use it. And I think the first thing our officers look for are video surveillance in the area of crimes or whatever it may be. So if we can pinpoint it by addresses, by people registering, I think that's something we can discuss further with the board and maybe move this forward across the entire county.
Oh, I fully agree. I think this is something worth putting in practice. You know, if we're all concerned with crime, and for us out in the county, pretty much property crime seems to be kind of the highlight. You know, if we can drive that portion down, and in particular, because realistically, there's a lot of repeaters out there. The courts let them out early, and then, but you guys know just by looking at somebody's face and oh yeah, there's so and so, and so it's great to have that calling card. So I really believe at some point in time we should, Mr. Chair, maybe have that conversation with our police services boards, OPP, or all of them for that matter in the county, but in particular with our OPP ones to see if we could coordinate some sort of a program to register this, and then there's a lot of, I think, information that the OPP or the police can bring forward to sort of accentuate how good this tool can be.
So your worship, just to put a little context to it, it would maybe maybe appropriate for myself and maybe Margaret and you know, maybe Jamie to talk a little bit before we go too far with this. I mean, broad afield, to look at costs, who would create a database, who would maintain the database, who would have access to the database, etc. There becomes privacy issues and all kinds of other stuff of which I have no knowledge, but I agree that this would be wonderful, and I know other communities have already done it, so we may be able to learn best practices from other people. But I think if we had all that information in our back pocket before we took it outside of Tecumseh, I think that would maybe ensure that we would be a little more successful. So I would suggest that maybe what we need to do is just have a little group to talk about, you know, I think Margaret would understand privacy issues very well, and Jamie, you know, who within the Ontario Provincial Police would want to maintain that kind of a database, and then I think we could maybe put some shape to it before we just take it out afield. I don't know if there are any other comments about that or any other thoughts.
I mean, I certainly don't have an issue with that, but I know that they're doing it in large cities and so forth.
Yes, yeah, and we can learn from them.
I'm not saying to reinvent the wheel. I think it's just a matter of putting in practice, best practice in other communities.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I'm talking about, is learn best practices, and then it would probably be easier to be more successful if we had a better shape to it before we start engaging with our other contract municipalities.
And Jamie, I'll be the first one to sign up.
There you go.
I'll put my camera in the hands of the OPP if we need it.
I think we have a comment from Paul. Paul, did I see you wanted to make a comment?
Yeah, just ask through you to the staff sergeant again. Jamie, does your records management system have the ability to address something like that just within your own records management system?
Yeah, sure. I think, Paul, if we got our analyst on it, we could very easily create an occurrence and add all the addresses that we could quickly access. It would just be a maintenance issue if people moved or the cameras went down. It'd have to be a yearly registry or whatnot. But I know, Chatham Kent has moved forward with this idea, and that's where I've kind of picked it up from, because I don't know if I shared the story before, but I walked several blocks with another officer following footprints in the snow for thefts from vehicles and that. And we happened upon one of our officers that lives here locally that ended up having video coverage of the suspect trying to get into his car. So that's where the idea kind of came from. And when I started searching it, I realized Chatham Kent had it. So I agree with your worship that I don't think we need to recreate the wheel here or reinvent it. But yeah, further discussions could be had for best practices. I agree.
Thank you.
Any other comments, questions? I have one small one with the increase in the calls for service for mental health response. Do you see in the future, now we have two teams, or do you see this growing in our area? I mean, the area is supportive of the efforts of the Ontario Provincial Police with regard to their mental health response units. I'm just wondering if there is sufficient work to be done that they could support another team, to have three teams.
Yeah, I think moving forward, we're not going to see these teams go away. I know this came through a grant, and we hired a consultant with that money to put forth the plan or the results of this. And I know our organization, we kind of were the trailblazers here, and I think a lot of the other detachments now have followed our lead. And I think moving forward, there's going to be even a greater push. I think there was a release, and the inspector might be able to speak better to this than I can, but I believe money is coming in from the government, and they're focusing on the mental health area, and they're focusing on these teams, and they realize how important they are. So I think it's great. And Byron was in that role at one time, so I know he can speak to it from the early days, but it's evolved and grown. And I think it's a great service that we provide.
Yeah. Any other comments?
I'll just,
please
no,
do.
sorry, Mr. Chair. I'll just step into this just for a moment or more. Yeah, I agree. When we started the mental health response unit, of which Jamie and Byron were certainly integral in the conception of that. We didn't have any money. We didn't get any additional FTEs from the organization. But what we got is support. We got certainly a lot of support through your particular PSB and certainly others as well, which we certainly needed. So we've had to find those resources within. We really were given no additional money. And it was as we started to come up with different ideas and concepts, and we could see that the positive impact that it was having. So we're able to kind of redirect some of our resources from, rather than being in the hospital all the time, to being out on the road and handling other calls for service, while at the same time providing a high-end service to those people. So, we went after grant money. We got over $1 million about a year and a half ago. That funding will run out next year in March. No guarantee that there's going to be any additional money for us. So regardless, we see the value, and we just have to kind of make do with what we've got. And we've become really good at it, and we're really imaginative, innovative, and creative. We have different ideas as to what we want to do. And I'll confirm certainly what Jamie just said, that this is not going to go away, because the communities need it, and we recognize that. So we're going to continue to provide that service, and we're very fortunate for the partnerships that we do have, including that with Hotel Dieu Grace Hospital.
Excellent. No other questions? Then I would entertain a motion that the OPP report for the months of January and February 2021 be received. I'm looking for to move it. Joe Buchetti, seconded by Mayor McNamara. Thank you all. All in favor? And passed. Thank you. We'll move on to item H, reports. There is only one report, and that's my report of the goings on at the Zone 6 meeting. It was pretty self-explanatory. I think a great deal of time was spent with regard to the Solicitor General's letter into the OPP contract municipalities. So I think we're going to deal with that later on. I don't think there's anything, anybody needs any explanations, or you want to talk about that report? So then I would entertain a motion that my chair's report for the Ontario Association of Police Service Boards Zone 6 meeting held March the 24th in virtual format be received. I'm looking for a mover. Paul, seconded by Mark. Thank you. And all in favor? And thank you. We'll move on to item I, communications action required. We have received a request from our association, that's the Ontario Association of Police Service Boards, dated March the 1st, for a sponsorship for the annual general meeting and spring conference. Tecumseh has traditionally, over the last maybe 4 years, made sure we put something in our budget to sponsor our association. And I know this year there is something in our budget. If there's no objection to us spending that money, I don't see there would be. I would entertain a motion that the sponsorship of the 2021 Spring Conference and Annual General Meeting taking place between May the 26th and 28th, 2021, in virtual format be approved in the amount of the $300 that was budgeted in our 2021 Tecumseh budget. And moved by Mayor McNamara and seconded by Mark Gomes. All in favor? Thank you so much. That's something we do every year. As a matter of fact, Zone 6 also has taken, we moved it, so they've done it. Under communications for information purposes only, the Ministry of the Solicitor General sent us a letter, all chiefs memo regarding phase 1 COVID vaccinations for frontline police officers. That was an information bulletin. I read it. I don't know. I don't think there's anything we need to discuss on that. The next one was from the Ministry of the Solicitor General, dated March the 11th. It was an all chiefs memo regarding the new COVID border testing orders under the Quarantine Act. I think that is just for information purposes. We do not need to act on any of that. And finally, on March the 12th, to all chiefs on a memo regarding 2021 COVID-19 relief funding for municipalities. And that's, again, something that is not a matter of governance. So it's just, we're just receiving those reports. So I'm looking for a motion that the correspondence detailed above for the communications information be received. Looking for a mover. Joe Pachetti. Thank you, Joe. And seconded by? Someone has to second. Thank you, Paul. All in favor? And thank you. Done. Old business, the Solicitor General dated March the 18th, OPP detachment boards. This was hammered out in great length at our Zone 6 meeting. Going away from that meeting, I had the impression that many of the contract municipalities had not even thought about this, but the Solicitor General has placed a very tight timeline on this. Before this meeting, I spoke with Mayor McNamara as well as our CAO, Margaret, and we don't need, here, this is my opinion, and I'm opening this up for discussion before we make a motion. We don't need to meet and reinvent the wheel. We've already done that. The Forsyth report, which I will hold up here, is quite detailed in how we propose in Essex County that each municipality form and elect delegates to go to an amalgamated board, the number of people on the amalgamated board, the number of people that we would see coming in from the province on an amalgamated board. And I think that report, in my mind, and I think also Mayor McNamara's mind, it answers the first question for the Solicitor General as to, you know, what do you want to do? Okay. Tecumseh sponsored that meeting, hired the facilitator to facilitate that meeting. Our staff has worked with the information from that meeting to assist Gary in a presentation to Roma. We've taken a leading position in this. So I would say that what we could do is author a letter to the Solicitor General reporting back that we are standing by this Forsyth report, that it contains all the answers, what we think are the answers to the first phase of obligation for, I think it's July for reporting, and that we could copy that letter to all the other contract municipalities in our region, as well as AMO, because AMO has a vested interest in this. They don't want to plow the same field. Our association has received it, but I don't know, based on a change of people at our board level, if it got lost, etc. So I think I started thinking about forming a meeting, getting everybody together and confirming. As we know, we had Lakeshore had a bit of a hiccup after the meeting, but I would say that that's counterproductive, and I think Margaret would support that, and I know our mayor would support that. We can send this letter out if you are in agreement that just said you want this information as far as the Police Service Board of the town of Tecumseh is concerned. The Essex County already solved that issue, and here it is here. Now, is there any comment with regard to what I'm proposing here that you see as being a problem? Yes, Paul, please.
Just to clarify, so this would go out, as you just said, this is the town of Tecumseh's, obviously, opinion, and it's obviously on sent out on a different mechanism other than the mechanism that's within them. They want us to apply online kind of thing, if we can get an agreement amongst all the municipalities. Am I correct with that?
You know what? I think we already have agreement from all our municipalities, because the Forsyth report was founded on the fact that we met together at a certain amount of expense. We thrashed this out, and there was an agreement. And this wasn't, and this is something we should really remember. This is not a Tecumseh agenda driving this forward. When we had that meeting, you know, Kingsville was right away very interested in how we would form and how many delegates there would be on the board, et cetera, et cetera. Other municipalities had a lot of ideas on this. So what came out of this discussion was the best effort of all the contract municipalities. So I think what we want to do is, Tecumseh wants to send this forward and maybe encourage the other contract municipalities to do likewise, you know. But I do not see us, my own personal is, I do not see us going to the expense, because sure as God made little apples, we would be on the hook to sponsor this meeting, you know, to bring out the Forsyth report just to say, do we all agree on this? Is there any more, you know, we just don't need to do that. So that's this chairman's opinion, and I'm looking for comment or support.
Well, I think, yeah, I guess just to follow up, I said, in reading the information from the Solicitor General, there's a link that they require to be somebody to go online that's representative, I take it, of all the boards, that there's some kind of an agreement to fill out this form that becomes the actual document that's submitted to the ministry. I guess I can.
And if you, and just to, and the timeline is so brutally tight. That I think that we're telling them we've already plowed this field, and whether we have, you know, and we'll send that forward to them. Now, you know, Gary prefaced this very well just a few minutes ago in talking to our Zone 6 rep, Dave Tilley, about the fact that we've done this, but we don't want to go too far down the road if the ministry in their infinite wisdom has something totally different that they are going to in July drop this on us. So I am not interested myself in spending a lot of our Police Service Board money to redo all this, if indeed, first of all, we've already done it, and second thing is, if the ministry really has another agenda they've been kind of thinking about, you know. So I think this is the best solution at this time. Mayor McNamara, I'm running out of words. Are we,
Yeah, I mean, I certainly don't have an issue. I think you're correct in saying, I think we've kind of, in my opinion, have gone as far as we can go without really, going beyond any type of scope. That's why to David, I think it's important in the messaging that David did give us in terms of the little bits and pieces that are coming out of this. I think are important. But having said that, I do believe we need to maybe circle back. I'm not talking about reinventing our wheel. Basically to let our neighbors know, because it's ironic. I got a phone call from Mayor Bain, Lakeshore, today, and his first comment was, "Are we going to meet on the Police Services Board piece of that?" And I said, "Well, I'm having a Police Services Board meeting," but I said, I think the groundwork has been laid out by everyone, and it's been, we sent a copy of that off to the ministry way back in the day. And that was the decision based on it. I don't have a problem in getting together, and I think what we should do, we can put all the boards together or whatever, but maybe the board secretary treasurer and the board chairs of the four say, look, we're just here to reaffirm the foresight report, and I think that needs to be kind of our foundation, and it is. I don't want to go through another exercise and bringing in a facilitator and then rehashing the rehash. It's done, and I think the only thing that we have added to that report is some of the unanswered questions yet of the integrated model and how does four or maybe five, I don't know, but at least four contracts, independent contracts, fit into a unified board, and comes down to that effective adequacy and all this other stuff. So I think I've covered that with the help of Margaret and Ellen when we extrapolated the information that we built within the foresight report, and to look at how we should be populating. We've got our ideas, and if the province has a difficult time filling those seats, the option for us was let the municipalities fill those seats and so forth. But anyway, I'm not going to go into the whole letter.
No.
But David, I don't know if you gotten a copy of the foresight report. If not, you should get one. Yep. And also my piece that I did at Roma to complement that, and it kind of gives you a bit of an idea where we sit here in our region. But the chair is absolutely right, and I was a little taken aback from even our member who sits on the board itself.
No clue.
Really, not knowing anything, and so there's a lot of work to be done, and somehow this is why I'm saying that there should be some sort of information coming out, and that should have come out when the Solicitor General came out and said, okay, we need this by this date. They should have come out with something, and at least now you're saying bits and pieces of that over 9-10 months or whatever that happened. I think it is important, but we need something to shake things up, and I think I mean Essex has done that, and we did that 18 months ago? I don't know.
Fait accompli, right?
It's quite a while, and so we were, as the chair alluded to, we were progressive and forward thinking. We knew it was coming, and so forth, but even my standing on the new task force for AMO, I sit on the police task force also with Mayor McDonald, and it's basically especially on the Section 10 pieces, and that there's everybody just kind of doing a lot of this, and with the same piece where we need to get something. And we did have a lot of meetings, David, prior We went, I know that Margaret and I think our chair was in London. And then we had a meeting in Kitchener area where all of these Zone 6 and
Toronto.
I forget, there was a whole group of us, and there was a lot of ideas that were exchanged there and information given to the ministry and so forth. But even there, the feedback we got back to the ministry was crickets. It was basically a one-way delivery of messages. So,
Okay. So your worship, let me ask you a simple question here. Now, my proposal was that we send a covering letter with our Forsyth report and even your Roma report. We copy the other contract municipalities in Essex County. We copy our association, we copy AMO, etc. If we go to the other municipalities before we send that letter out, I'm not sure we'll get off the start line, because Lakeshore, if has had an issue, they get working before we've even formed a board. They're looking at the cost of policing and all this kind of stuff, which is a separate issue.
If I could jump in, I think it's important for us not to give the impression that Tecumseh is strong arming the other 3 or 4.
No, I think we're just
a compliment. We're okay. We are okay with the Foresight report, but I really think that I want them to, not in the point where then they send something off and say, no, we don't support what Tecumseh is doing. That's
all right. So I'll ask you. So what happens if we get these people together and Lakeshore goes into their 2-tiered governance model they've been working with, and we have Leamington? We're not sure they're going to be a contract.
No, I understand that, Chris. I understand that, but my point I'm making is I don't want them to come behind the back door and say, Tecumseh, you never, came back to us to reaffirm. That's all I'm saying. Is I want to cover all of our bases, and so that it's not like, oh, Tecumseh, or again are trying to drive the message. That's all I'm saying. And it's more of a courtesy call and maybe a reminder. I don't know if they have new board members since then, on their police services board. But my point is it's more of a courtesy call and saying, like a general reminder, this is what we agreed upon as a group, and we're sending this off again. And so, are you guys, prepared or on board? If they say yeah, because I agree, I don't think we should have a 4-hour session trying to figure out, who's on first. But we already know who's on first. All I'm saying is just a courtesy call, and I don't think that the full boards need to be there. Just say this is what we're prepared to do. And
but I think it should just be the mayors and the police chairs. But if you want to do that, but I think we would just tell them this is our intention, because we haven't got time or finances to sit down and rethrash this out. But let me be the devil's advocate. So we say that, and then I don't know, Essex says, well, there's Tecumseh going, they want to take all the glory or the limelight, or Leamington, or not Leamington, but Lakeshore says, no, we want to have a 2-tiered. We want to have a North County board and a South County board. Do we go big? Now what do we do?
I'm telling you, they would do that if we just go ahead and just kind of set them aside. I'm telling you, Kim Verbeek just called me and wanted, and I think Ellen is on the line, sent her a copy. She wanted a copy of the report and my Roma presentation, and so they're curious, obviously, and if I'm not mistaken, Kim was at the meeting and so forth. So I gave her a copy of all of the stuff that I had, and I believe Ellen prepared that. So my point is that it's 18 months ago. I just want to make sure that we don't make huge waves for them to say, oh my gosh, there they go ahead. So I'm being political here,
Yeah.
and I think it's just a nice courtesy little piece to let them know that, okay, we feel strongly that this is our message. We've worked it out. we've had the conversation. We had the consultant put this thing together, and there's some, now we need to know what the ministry is thinking as well. And that's my point is, a very short meeting. I don't think it'd be more than an hour, 45 minutes to an hour. That's it. And then we.
Okay, so then we're kind of, because I don't want to hamstring our admin staff, and we have a timeline, could we make this a two-part motion to say the first thing is we will meet with the contract municipalities to reaffirm their interest in, or reaffirm this our interest in moving that Forsyth report forward? And then the second thing would be, once we've had this meeting and everybody's happy, then we actually reaffirm that Tecumseh is in support of the Forsyth report. So I have tentative hands here, and Margaret, because I know I'm skating on very thin ice here, let's start with you in case this is absolutely the wrong way to go.
No, through you, Mr. Chair. I'm just fiddling with a motion. I think it would be appropriate, first of all, before you were to act on the mayor's recommendation there, to have a motion by the Tecumseh Police Services Board that they indeed do reaffirm their acceptance of the Forsyth report as the area's submission to the Solicitor General. Then you have the strength of that going into a meeting with the other chairs that the board has in fact already considered. And then I think probably the second part of that would be just a motion authorizing you to meet with the other chairs to advise them of Tecumseh's position, and leave it at that. There's no pressure.
No arm wrestling, none of that.
Yes.
That's
right. And then, Margaret, my understanding that we could, then the third phase of that would be then to allow our administrative people to move that forward once we've,
Sure. I mean, I think that if there's going to be any.
I just don't want to wait another month because, we have to wait to make another motion.
We have to have another month.
In a May meeting. So.
They're calling, although they don't like us to be forward, but they're always calling Tecumseh to say, well, what are you guys doing? And are you going to have a meeting? You're going to call a meeting? And,
yeah, I understand that, Your Worship, and I will refrain from comment. But,
I know. So I think Mark's, it's, that's exactly what I was thinking. I do support it. We should support it. And then just a courtesy call to them. And here's our position. So,
thank you, Your Worship. David, please unmute yourself. I know that you probably want to say something on behalf of the Solicitor General, who will be receiving all of this.
So there's just a couple of things I wanted to point out. The first thing is it's not just limited to contract locations. So what the ministry is looking for is a proposal that has got the support of every municipality within the detachment area, even those that currently don't have a contract with the OPP. So like within Essex County, so I think most of them are contract with the exception of Peely Island's not under Essex County, right. But they do come under the detachment. Is that correct?
Yeah, they're a 5.1.
So yeah, so the ministry would certainly be looking for some kind of approval from the proposal to have the approval of all the municipalities that come under the detachment. So
yeah, it does now. It does now.
And it would also need to be signed off by the actual municipalities, not the police services boards. So of course you have your approval through your board motions and stuff like that. I'm just trying to get the kind of I's dotted that when it goes forward to the ministry, if it's just coming from one board or something like that, the first response that's going to come back to you is, well, have you got the approval of other municipalities within the detachment area and that kind of thing. So I just wanted to point those things out. The other thing is that if you are proposing to have some kind of meeting with the other municipalities within the detachment area, is I would strongly urge you to include both Sarah Caldwell and Joanna Redding, who are part of that thing, potentially as part of that meeting, because they will be able to answer any questions that may arise in regard to what you are putting forward in a proposal. And I can always forward the report to them ahead of time, so they're aware of like where you're looking at. I just think they would be able to answer any questions prior to you putting this forward.
So the Forsyth report that was acceptable to the 5 contract municipalities, in order to be moved forward to the Solicitor General, would need motions at council of each municipality supporting the report that's already been written and submitted. In addition to that, we have to meet with a representative of the municipality and the police chairs to make nice so that everybody is understanding that we're trying to move the agenda forward. Am I right? So that means we have to meet with them. They have to take it back and make a motion from their board, which has to go to their council, which has to get support from the council. Is this what I'm hearing? In order that the ministry will actually read the report that we've already sent them and they've accepted? I'm lost.
The proposal that goes forward to the ministry as part of, so they at the moment they have an electronic way of submitting that. The first question within there says, does this have the support of all the municipalities within the area, within the detachment area?
You wonder why this is not going to happen by July. Okay, so I guess then, Margaret.
I think that, we'll put our best foot forward. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4. We've got at least minimum 5 meetings between now and maybe 6 meetings, and then on top of that, I think we can get the mayors and to find out what when their boards are, get their resolutions in play. Margaret?
Please.
So just on a technicality, it's due to the Solicitor General on June 7th. So not July. And I think that I'm playing around with some wording here. Maybe the easiest thing, Mr. Chair, is if I read a draft motion for the board to consider.
Please do.
I'm hoping captures what the gist of the conversation is. That the Tecumseh Police Service Board reaffirms its support for the recommendations contained in the OPP Detachment Board Report by Foresight Management Consulting, dated January 23rd, 2020, as submission to the Solicitor General in requesting proposals for the composition of an OPP Detachment Board. And that the aforesaid motion be provided by the chair to the Essex County Police Service Boards and Pelee Island for their consideration of approval as the Essex County submission. If we can get that far and we get the concurrence, then each of the CAOs or secretary treasurers, usually my position, would bring it forward to our respective councils for that resolution, and working towards the June 7th deadline.
Sure. I saw other hands tentatively. Paul, did you have a question?
Just through you to Mr. Tilley, does the submitted request, do the municipalities have to, I guess, select or nominate or whatever one municipality to do the submission? Is that how it works?
I've just opened up the form to take a look, and it does allow a municipality to respond on behalf of the detachment area. Yeah. But the first question does say, is this a coordinated response on behalf of all the municipalities / First Nations within that detachment area?
Yeah, that's my point, I guess. But somebody has to submit it, right? Electronically, so they have to designate who's submitting it, right?
Yes.
Great, thank you.
Margaret, please.
And very quickly, Mr. Chair, I think that can be handled at the administrative level. The heavy lifting here is getting it to the boards and then to each respective council. If we are successful with that, we'll just, decide amongst the CIOs which one takes the lead and give them all our resolutions and let them do the submission. I don't think it matters which one it is.
No, I agree. It'll be us anyway, because none of them will want to do it. What I just don't want to have happen is what happened before, is we get bushwhacked after everybody's in agreement and municipalities go away, and all of a sudden they get independent letters going to the Solicitor General, saying, well, maybe we could do it this way, like after we've had an agreement. So these things make me crazy. It's just not the way to do business. But at any rate, maybe Margaret, if you could.
I think Mark had his hand up.
Yes, he did. And I was going to get there eventually. Mark.
Well, I'd like to say that it was disappointing in the zone meeting that we had, that it seems like a lot of the boards did not know what was going on.
No clue.
No clue whatsoever.
Yeah.
First thing I want to say, or second thing I want to say, is I applaud you, Mr. Chair, for taking such a lead and being a leader. And you take the Tecumseh board to a proactive direction, 100%. And I applaud you for that, for being our leader and our chair in that. Now, with having said that, I have to agree with the mayor. We got to be cautious. And I know that it's frustrating, probably more so for you, Mr. Chair, but I think we got to be cautious that we have to show that we are still speaking to everybody and trying to get everybody on board. And the stronghold definitely is showing that we are the leader. Some of them resent that. And I think that that's the basis of some of their response of backing off right away and then getting bushwhacked. Yes, we don't want that to happen. No. But I still agree with the mayor that diplomatically, I think we should go the roundabout of trying to get the chairs, the mayor, whoever has to be at that meeting, and let's be open about it and let us have it on record that that whoever makes their decision to agree or disagree, it's there, it's on record, and then we follow suit whatever direction we have to take.
Well, if a constituent municipality disagrees, we can't make the application. It has to be supported by all municipalities.
No, my point is that the subtlety, Mr. Chair, is the fact that they signed on.
Sure.
And I think that's why I think it's, let's kill them with kindness and then deliver. And I think we have a certainly a better chance for the two of them to reach out to Tecumseh, myself. I think they're looking for direction and
sure. It's interesting. It's interesting. People on a police board are looking for direction after 4 years. This has been going on for 4 years.
Well, I mean, anyway. that's nor here nor there. I mean, the reality is, I think
But can we agree that Margaret's proposed motion supports exactly what Margaret said?
I support that.
Okay, so Mayor McNamara would move it. That's appropriate. Maybe Deputy Mayor Baghetti should second it, because absolutely, thank you, because that gets the full import of all in favor. Passed. Thank you so much.
We'll just make sure that Mrs. Baghetti sends some tiramisu to all of them, and we'll sweeten them up.
Yeah, sweeten the pot. Thank you. Oh, okay. Under new business, I had one thing. It didn't make it, but we have a brand new Western Region commander. Maybe Inspector Miller can speak to. Have you met our new commander yet?
Yes, I have, Mr. Chair, and actually I've known him for a few years when I used to work in Northern Ontario, from between the Sault Ste. Marie and Thunder Bay. So his name is Chief Superintendent Dwight Thibb. He started his policing career in New Liskeard, which is a small police service of 10 people. And was amalgamated then with the OPP and kind of continued his career through there. So he spent all of his time in Northern Ontario. So this is his first opportunity to be in the South and West region. And yeah, we're looking forward to being able to benefit from his leadership. And in fact, if all goes well, his schedule is kind of unpredictable at times, not necessarily controlled by him. He should be actually in my office on Tuesday morning for a quick
Wonderful.
meeting. So, and perhaps at some particular point, I know he'd like to be able to meet people as well.
Yeah, I absolutely. He actually sent an email around saying he would like to sit in on some police service board meetings, and that's wonderful. My point is I think maybe this police service board should introduce ourselves to him and send maybe a letter of congratulations on his appointment. And I'm looking for someone to move that. Mayor McNamara, seconded by Mark Gomes. Is there any discussion on that? I thought I saw a hand come up.
No, I was just going to ask, Mr. Chair, to the inspectors, the previous commanders, have they rode the retirement course away, or have they been reassigned somewhere else?
We're talking about Superintendent
Chief
Kane.
Inspector Kane has
Yeah,
retired.
Yeah, Chief Superintendent Kane has retired from the OPP. I understand that he is back on some sort of a contract doing some work for the commissioner this time, but I don't really have the specifics of that, but he's retired.
Thank you.
All right, so then we're sending off a letter of congratulations and welcome to Southwestern Ontario. Should we send him a bottle of suntan lotion?
And get rid of the snow blower.
Yeah, get rid of the stove.
As long as he's
Okay.
in London. No, he needs to. bring
Yeah,
his
he
snow
needs that.
blower.
Oh, yeah, that Lake Huron affects snow. So, and we're all in agreement that this letter will come directly from the Tecumseh Police Service Board. Okay, that's good. So, and we've had the motion, we've had discussion, all those in favor? Passed. Thank you very much. Under item M of next meeting, it is Thursday, June the 10th, a long way away. And we've got a lot of stuff to get done between now and June the 10th. So, and finally, a motion to adjourn. That there being no, is there any further new business, by the way?
If I may, to
Please.
Staff Sergeant Smith, just if you can go offline, there's an issue. I received an email, and I just want to have a conversation with you, and I don't want to take any more of your time, but maybe just a phone call, and we can have that conversation.
Heard and understood, 5 by 5. Okay, so if there be no further business to discuss, the Thursday, April 8th meeting of the Tecumseh Police Services Board be adjourned, and I'm looking for a mover. Mark, seconded by Mayor McNamara. All in favor? Thank you. Thank you, folks. Big meeting. It was lovely. Yeah, a lot of things accomplished. Thank you.